Next up on Soul Level Human.
Since 2020, it's like we've gone into the upside down Biff timeline in Back to the Future. It's like, okay, we need to change something because this is not the timeline that we want. I mean, at least we got the hits we needed before the pandemic. Like, thank you for those breadcrumbs. And also, could you have given us a little bit more? That would have been great.
Before the pandemic, 6 months before, I had this insight that I needed to get rid of everything, move out of California, digital nomad, and transition my business online. I did that February 1st, 2020. And so I was perfectly primed for what happened.
And I likened it at the time to swimming underwater. Like, you cannot actually just hold your breath and not come up for air and keep going and stay alive. You have to come up to the surface and fill up and then go back in. And you can expand your capacity. You can, work on how long you can hold your breath for. We're essentially going to the spiritual gym by connecting in that way and tapping into that awareness and coming back and coming back and coming back.
My job is to see your light and hold that until you also see it, and then you walk towards it. And so it's sacred work that I'm doing. It looks like I'm organizing people's home, but I'm really helping them remember who they really are. I remember my sister when she died. She came to me and she was so happy. And that meant a lot to me because my sister's death was a suicide. And I had dozens of losses before my sister. No one hit the way my sister hit. Like, when you lose DNA, soul, physical connection like that, you change as a person. Like, I knew I was different before I knew she was gone.
If you feel like your soul came to this planet for a reason, and you're looking around at the state of the world in heartache and disbelief, it's because your soul is ready to step into the mission you came here to complete. You have soul-level awareness and skills to develop and soul-level people to meet. You didn't sign up to do this alone. If you're ready to soul-level your life, you're gonna need to work on your clarity, courage, and trust muscles. I'm your guide, Sylvia Beatriz, psychic channel, intuition coach, and soul-level mama of 2 under 10. This world is ready for a new way. This world is ready for you. Welcome to Soul Level Human. You might have seen her in action on TLC, A&E, or the OWN network, or maybe even caught her TEDx talk, Listen to the Monster in Your Closet. You have to check it out if you haven't. But for me, Star Hansen is family for life. We lived together in our 20s, and my husband and I joke that she's the perfect combo of the two of us. She's like our OG child. She's also one of the first people who introduced me to the idea that anybody could tune into energy. So in a way, I have her to thank for all of us being here together right now. I cannot wait for you to dive soul deep with us. Let's announce our winners. The winner of the 90-minute Spirit Huddle is Priscilla R. Congratulations. And the winner of the 3 months in the Coalition membership is Marianne. We will be reaching out over email or on Instagram, depending on how you submitted. Thank you to everybody who submitted their review and shared the podcast on Instagram. You are awesome. Thank you so much. We're well on our way to 200 downloads, and with just 1 episode out, this is amazing. So I am so excited to see where we go from here. So excited to share with you everything that I have in store. And with that, let's start the episode. Hi, Star Hansen.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here and chat with you today.
Thank you for coming to my podcast. It's called Soul Level Human. I got it right. I got it right this time.
Yes, you did it. Way to go. Hi, Air 5 to you.
Air 5 to me.
Yes.
Okay, so Soul Level Human is all about figuring out how to human with the awareness that we are souls, that we are infinite beings, but we can't live out in the ethers. We can't live out there. That's not what we came for. So what does it look like to come here to this dense reality and be ourselves? And so many people have extrasensory qualities. They have connections to their intuition. They have connections to their past lives or their past loved ones or spirit guides, and it looks different for everybody. So I cannot wait to jump in and talk to you about what it looks like for you. Can you start us off with what your family of origin was all about? What was the language of spirituality when you were growing up?
I grew up Catholic, and so Catholic. So I knew that when I was a kid, I was very spiritual, but the only frame that I understood that through was Catholicism. So I remember it like age 7, going into church and thinking, I'm going to be a nun, because I knew that spirituality you're laughing because she knows me, and that would never actually fly for me as a human. But I was like, that was the highest level of spirituality that I could imagine in that phase of my life. And it made perfect sense. And I was like, I'm going to be a nun. And my mom was like, you talk too much to be a nun, like literally what she said. And she's right. But I also enjoy my silence. So, but that was the world that we grew up in. My family wasn't super, super strict. It wasn't like a lot of talking of going to hell and all of that. Of course, church did that just fine on Sunday, but in our home, that wasn't necessarily what was put out there. And we had freedom. I remember playing the Ouija board when I was in high school and burning incense and getting tarot cards. And, I remember going down that path because that always felt very real to me. I had so many perceptions at a young age. Like, I knew my past life when I came here. I knew what starseed I was before I could even name what a starseed was. There were so many things that I just intuitively knew. I remember playing the Ouija board and like talking back to the ghosts. Like, one time someone came through and said, "We're going to kill you." And I just so calmly was like, no, you can't. You can't. Like, I literally like talked back to the ghost. I was like, yeah, that's not a thing you're going to do.
So feisty.
No, and so feisty.
On both ends,
and
though.
I remember they knew I could tolerate it. They knew.
Clearly.
But it's, and there's just so many things that were just a part of my life and experience. And it was just normal for me. I just never, even though, I talked to my mom years later and she had shared some of her spiritual insights with me, but we never talked about them when I was a kid. And so it was really cool to talk to her when we got older about it, because I just knew my experience, but I thought I was like the weird one.
So
like,
wait, you guys never talked about any of that as you were a kid, and she just had this whole other life that she was apparently living that you didn't even get to know about till later?
Yeah. I mean, so she told me when we moved into our house, I think I asked her at some point, Mom, have you ever seen a spirit? And she said, oh yeah, someone ran through our house when we first moved in. So the second house we ever lived in was a new build, and it had been on this big open space of dirt. And through the course of building, we had found like arrowheads and all sorts of fun paraphernalia.
Wow.
And my mom was at our home, and like an indigenous being ran through our house, and she watched him run through our house and leave. And I didn't know about that for years. I mean, it was well into my adulthood that she shared that with me.
I mean, probably on purpose. I wouldn't share anything like that with my kids either, just in case. They don't need any extra encouragement to be delaying bedtime. Thank you very much.
This is probably why the universe didn't give me kids, because I'd be like, let's talk. So we just had a visitor, just like, we're going to honor them. We set a table for them. It's going to be great.
I love that. See, that's why we're friends. Well, first of all, we are friends, clearly. Let's talk about how it is that we met, because I have to tell you that you were probably my spiritual big sis, in the sense that, for example, when we first had our like amazingly kismet meant to be meeting at what used to be Crust in Burbank, California, you said, oh my gosh, confirmation. And you were having chills. And I was like, confirmation. Interesting. That's cool. What does this mean? Oh my gosh. And here we are, 15? Yeah. More than 15.
Time is a construct.
Years later.
Time is a construct.
Also math.
Yeah.
So fun.
Yes, totally. I know. Same. Yeah.
So
almost 20 years, honestly. So it's been almost 20 years. Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Life was very different.
Because it had to be 2006? And it's
6 or 7,
24?
somewhere in there. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Okay. So you, my dear, dear sister friend, professional organizer, superstar, incredible person, So I was in a chapter of soul searching and floating and feeling completely lost and behind in my life. And I was wondering what the hell I should be doing with my life. And my husband knew you from an acting class. Is that right?
Yeah, former life. We had both gone to the same acting school, but we had never actually met, which was hilarious. And he messaged me on MySpace.
Oh my
if
gosh.
that's going to date.
I didn't know that.
The situation. Yeah. He messaged me on MySpace and said, hey, my girlfriend at the time is looking for, to explore new career options. Could she meet up with you? And I was like, yeah, of course. And I am the type of person that all beings are friends until proven otherwise. And even then you're still a friend. It's just, you've been relegated to it like a slightly distant location. So I was like, yeah, let's meet up. So we did, we met up. And I don't remember what we talked about. I remember how beautiful that hand-carved bar was
really
at Crust.
was.
It was, we've talked many times that we're like, I want to buy that and that will be the center of our home together in the compound. Yeah. But, but I remember just talking and feeling, it was just one of those moments where you meet someone and you just know that you're never going to have part of your life without them, where you just are like, I'm getting the confirmations now. It's just, you meet them and you just go, I've always known you. And it was just like, I feel like the whole world just opened up in that moment, or reopened, because we already obviously had a channel going that just realigned in this life. And getting the confirmations like I'm getting now of just like, you two are sisters and you're here. And it's, and really, and what's beautiful about what we've done is like, we've grown together as women, as business owners, as souls. We have just, done the work that we've come here to do. You've caught me at times that I didn't think I could survive. Like, I didn't know when we were sitting there at Crust, the magnitude that your presence would have in my life. And we're not even done yet. Like, we're only 20 years into our relationship. There's still so much to experience together.
Incredible. When you really think about it and look at it like that, it's just absolutely mind-blowing. We were talking about Ouija boards and spirits and meeting each other and feeling so soul connected, like love at first sight, basically. So are you the reason that I believe in love at first sight, actually?
Well, you met Adam before you met me. So I don't know. Did you love him at first sight? I
did not.
Oh, sorry. We can edit that out
not.
later. Just kidding.
No,
Adam, we love you. We love you. I think, so what I think kind of happens, we say this a lot with breakups. You've witnessed my myriad of breakups over the years. You don't know until you know. And when you know, you can't unknow. This is like a saying that I live by specifically for breakups, but it's real life. So the minute that you have a soul connection with someone and you're like, oh, that's possible. Wait, I can meet someone and then suddenly have this other dimension open up. Oh, and then I think it just becomes like this thing that you can do. It's this new like channel that you have access to that you didn't even know about before. And then suddenly before you know it, you don't remember life before it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. And it's so funny that the language that we have even is so reflective of the language of the spiritual side as well. Like the channel of the radio exactly is what it feels like when you tune in, when you literally the words tune in to a show, tune in to a radio frequency is the exact same thing that we're tuning in to, spirit or loved ones or whatever it is. How does it work for you? Because I know you, that you're a very spiritual person and that you feel very deeply. But what does it actually look like, feel like, sound like for you?
I don't know that I can explain it because it's where I operate from 90% of the time, 95, 99% of the time. I always say the greater part of me is in spirit. Spirit makes more sense to me than the human plane. Like I have to, I feel like I have a gift of always seeing this earth plane as like a game. Like I feel like I've always looked at it as though we're all playing a video game in spirit and that this is just my avatar. And if anyone is, real over the hill, you'll remember there was this movie, I think it was called Clash of the Titans, and it was all the gods up planning out the humans' experience, and they had this big like game board with figures on it. And I remember thinking, yeah, that seems like what I remember, this idea of planning and viewing and I don't know. So I have always felt really connected to the other side. I haven't felt any shame about. I don't talk about it a lot to everybody because I'm not interested in other people's perception of my experience. But that feels really real. So when I'm going about and living my life, all I know is that I will get a big yes. The yeses are so much easier for me to navigate. Like right now, I had, you know this, but I had mice take over my car. They did about $5,000 worth of damage. The guy who fixed it did about $13,000 worth of damage, and they're going to total my car. So I, being who I am, felt through it and was like, oh, great, this is a great time to move to Europe. So it's like, I don't know, like I just will get these like 5 things connect in my mind. And I'm like, this is a great moment for that. Okay, great. And then I never question it. I don't think twice about it. I just make a plan and move forward. Now, what's hard for me is the no's, because the no's because I'm such a feelings person, I will sometimes confuse the no's for depression, grief. I have PTSD, so a PTSD flashback. Sometimes it'll take me a long time, like the months leading up to this whole thing with the mouse. I have just been so bored here in the city that I live. Like this was my dream city. And I was like, oh, I'm so excited to be here. And the last few months I'm like, oh, and I'm not a bored person by nature. I'm very interested in things. And I just couldn't get excited about almost anything. And as I look now that I've made this decision, it's not even, again, not a mind decision. It's a soul decision of, yes, this is the right path. Instantly,
I'm getting chills
whatever
on that, by the way.
Yeah, like whatever that fog was is gone. Like I don't feel bored anymore. I'm really excited. I'm enjoying my house more. I'm feeling more dialed in. Nothing has changed except my perception and really dialing in. And what's beautiful to me is when I look at this move, I think back to when I am a jump, like a leap and then it shall appear type person. I always have been. Actually was my email signature back in the day. But when I left acting, yeah, totally. Is it the Yahoo days? It was or AOL days.
So cute.
I remember I left acting because I felt inspired out of nowhere. Don't know where I felt this inspiration to move to Florence and study interior design. And I couldn't at the time because I had more debt than freedom. And so I stayed and was like, well, that's okay. I'll work at an interior design shop here and see if I like it. And I did not, in fact, like it. But along the way, discovered organizing and realized how it's such a healing art. And it was really like the path was perfect. But what I feel now is I'm like, oh, I have to complete that cycle. The cycle that Spirit invited me to take part of 20 some years ago when they said, move to Florence and study interior design. They want me to finish that. And so just knowing, like when I say that, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm right on target. That's great. So yeah.
I come back to this idea so often because this is so natural to me living this way. How do people live without this cheat sheet, without this access? It pains me.
Yeah,
greatly.
It must be challenging. I know. I think they must look at us and think, oh, those airy, fairy, flighty creatures. Yeah. And we said this, I called you last week for support and, we said this, then it's like, how do people suffer through the hardest things in life because those to me are the hardest things. Spirit, I totally can get on board with like our soul lessons and what's going on and what I signed up for and what we're here to do. Even the hard stuff, I can make sense of it. But when I experience a death, when I experience something that brings me into the 3D hard and strong and fast and painful, I don't know how I would survive those if I didn't feel more tethered in spirit than I do on earth. And so me knowing when I'm walking through these painful losses or these moments of absolute pain, that's not the real truth. That the people that I love, even if they look like they're suffering, are in spirit really whole and perfect and complete. Like I don't know how to live life without that. I think that would be very difficult for me. God bless them, but I don't know if I'm not interested in that experience. That would be very difficult for me to experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Same here. And I likened it at the time to swimming underwater. Like you cannot actually just hold your breath and not come up for air and keep going and stay alive. You have to come up to the surface and fill up and then go back in. And you can expand your capacity. You can, work on how long you can hold your breath for. And I think that's one of the things that we're able to do as spiritual beings living a human experience. We're essentially going to the spiritual gym by connecting in that way and tapping into that awareness and coming back and coming back and coming back. And the more times we're able to do that, we're like lifeguards in a sense, like we have to be strong. We have to be focused. We have to be centered and able to paddle so that no one else's survival instinct will drown us with them. Right.
I was thinking about, because I like to do the Akashic records. I like to go to the records when I have to do anything big. If I have like a speaking engagement or if I'm writing, or I like to cheat. I like to go to all the places. So one of the things that I can't remember in this moment what it is that they say, but they basically talk about not being in your own way, right? Like, and how like oftentimes when it, like there's a thing with spirituality and spirit and connection that we as humans, and we've been taught to second guess ourselves and question like, oh, I don't know if that's like when I was downstairs a couple weeks ago and some lovely man walked through me and I stopped and said to my guides, no, thank you. I don't prefer that. I have some very specific rules about engagement with me from spirit side. And I talked to my guides and was like, I'd like you to manage this, please. And thank you. But if I second guessed myself, oh my gosh, why am I scared of this thing that isn't there? You go off on a hunt that has nothing to do with what's really going on. It's almost like we've gotten disconnected and don't trust ourselves. And there's something about that it gets in our way. It's self-centering. This is not the way I'm wanting to say it, but it's like, it's when we question ourselves, when we have those spiritual hits, it actually blocks the gifts that we are here to offer. When we get into insecurity, inadequacy, we suddenly start to make it all about ourselves and like, oh, I just don't know, versus what if there was a man? Like I know that I have a portal in my kitchen. I've known that since I moved in. I keep closing it. It keeps opening it. There's only so much a girl can do. So, you just have to do what you can do, but just allowing yourself to live your truth. And sometimes living your truth means not telling other people because you don't want to have to deal with the battle, and just owning it quietly and calmly for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Have you always been that self-assured?
In that way. Not in all the ways. I struggle, my human body and we've taken a long time to get to enjoy each other. It's been we had some battles set up for this lifetime, and I'm very glad that we're coming to a peaceful place, she and I, and a place of love. But the spirit side always made sense. But it is interesting to me, I do, and you know this, spirit veils things about my own personal life. I can get insights about other people like crazy. I can tell you when certain things will happen. I mean, I will just call someone at the right time, or I will feel, there have been times where I didn't even realize, but I was channeling someone's deceased parent while organizing them. It's like, it's such a natural way of being. But if I say things to myself or my guides or whatever, like give me insight about my soulmate or the city I'm going to live in or my babies, nothing. It's like crickets. It's like they've turned off the station and I don't get access to that. And most of the people who I love who are psychic, which are two of my closest friends, you and Carrie, you also get nothing. Like, it's like, they just are like, she doesn't need that information. You will not be providing her with that at this time. Her lessons required no information. So I'm like, oh, okay, thanks guys.
Yep. At least we got the hits we needed before the pandemic. Like, yes. Thank you for those breadcrumbs. And also, could you have given us a little bit more?
Well, that's
that would have been great.
It makes me laugh. So before the pandemic, 6 months before, I had this insight that I needed to get rid of everything, move out of California, digital nomad, and transition my business online. I did that February 1st, 2020. And so I was perfectly primed.
Soul Level Human is a proud partner of James Wedmore's Business by Design. Soul Level humans need to make a living, but we want to do it on our terms. Soul Level humans came here to have a positive impact, but not at the expense of our values, health, and quality time with our loved ones. This is our time. We have the global reach, we have tools to package our knowledge, we have the technology to create and automate systems. We're here to change the world together. What if we have everything we need to get to enjoy our life in the process? Working with James has been a game changer for me across the board. He talks energetics and strategy to create a scalable and sustainable 3D business. And as far as I know, nobody else has meditation, yoga, and spoon bending as part of their business event. Because like I always say, when you get your energy right, What was once impossible suddenly becomes easy. That's James Wedmore, Business by Design. Check the show notes for the link.
For what happened. It was still horrific and painful and traumatic and just the absolute worst, not the absolute worst, but it was not, I did not enjoy that. Thank you. But I'm so grateful. But then I do wonder, like when I have this moment, like this last week when I was sitting in the, will I or won't I leave? Neighbors would come up to me and say, why do you live here? Like people out of nowhere were like, yeah, but why are you here? Like, I was like, Spirit, I hear you. I'm leaving. Don't worry. Like, I know that they have a timeline for me, and I don't know whether it's a personal timeline to align with my path or if it's a avoid a horrific disaster at all costs. Like, and that's, I think, going through 2020, now we're all a little bit of that, like Nostradamus, like, wait, what's possible here now? I want it to be the happy one. Thank you.
Yeah. Since 2020, it's like we've gone into the upside down Biff timeline in Back to the Future. It's like, okay, we need to change something because this is not the timeline that we want.
Yeah. And I want to speak to that for a second, that it's not as hard as it sounds. Like, I think, it's funny. I called a friend on Saturday and I was like, I am struck because I got some really horrific, painful news last week, as you know, and I called a friend and she was like, we need to change your timeline, do something totally different that you wouldn't do. And so I canceled work after that. I went down and saw her. We went and walked the dogs. And like, we did nothing, but I did something totally different than what I would have done. And it really did shake me out of it. And so even when I've had moments of sadness or grief about the thing that had happened, I'm also like, oh, I'm on the other timeline. And it's just such a good reminder that all it takes is you redirecting in some way, like sit at your house an extra 5 minutes, do 10 jumping jacks, call someone you wouldn't have normally called, put on a crazy hat. Like, I don't know, it's like do something that shifts you. It doesn't have to be a big spiritual undertaking.
I mean, it's mirrored in physics, right? You change the degrees of, an airline flight and all of a sudden your destination is completely different. So why wouldn't that also apply to us?
Yeah. And it's interesting when I always feel that when I'm driving and I hit every red, I'll stop and say to Spirit, okay, clearly you're redirecting me. What would you like me to know? And I'll just kind of stop and reset instead of getting annoyed that I'm hitting the reds or am going to be late. Because like in a lot of ways, it's funny. We live from our own perspective and so much of the world around us is none of our business. And I don't know why I'm stuck at that red light and someone else isn't. And maybe they needed to get somewhere and I don't know. It's like, there's just so much mystery in this world. And
we will never know the whole scope of everything. Absolutely.
Totally. Yeah. Totally. Which is great. I'm excited about afterwards though, and being like, show me that what happened.
Well, afterwards, I feel like we're going to think it's just so awesome that we're going to be like, yes, let's do that again. Where when we're here, it's like, I am never coming back. This is ridiculous. This is way too hard. I'm never coming back. This is my last timeline. Ew. And then it must be that good to have us, from my perspective, choosing to come back.
Well, it's fascinating to me. Every single time someone passes away, that I've noticed in the last 10, 20 years, we'll say, as an adult, and now with a greater spiritual perspective, it is amazing to me how happy they are. Like they will come through doing somersaults and flying, and they're like
jumping,
and it's really hard.
Skipping.
Yeah, when loved ones are like, "Do you have a message for me from my loved one?" And I'm like, yeah. She's real happy. Like it's so awkward because I'm like, you are grieving and your grief is totally reasonable. Like I remember my sister when she died, she came to me and she was so happy. I mean, like, and she said to me, we did it. And I can't even do the happy face the way that she did, the joy, the sheer bliss and excitement and joy that she felt while she said, we did it. And I knew in that moment what she meant. We had made agreements. She had fulfilled her agreements with me. We are now moving on to the next chapter and we had done everything perfectly. And that meant a lot to me because my sister's death was a suicide. And it's so easy to feel like, oh, if she was here, she did the wrong thing. And having her come and be what happened made me so, it's like, it brought me so much joy. But in that moment, it was too soon. And I said that to her. I remember I whirled around and I was like, too soon. Like, no, it was too much for me as a human grieving the loss of this being, because also too, when you lose certain people, like, I always say, it's like, yeah, we've all had, I had dozens of losses before my sister. No one hit the way my sister hit. Like when you lose DNA, soul, physical connection like that, you change as a person. Like I knew I was different before I knew she was gone. Like I woke up that day and I was like, my entire body and mind are different. And it was on a cellular level. And so that brings us back to this whole concept of spirit and body, where it's like, we are spiritual beings and there's something so much big. I cannot describe what happened, but I know that I'm not the same person today as I was the night before. And I find that fascinating, but it is so interesting to see when they're on spirit, how happy they are and just joyful and sheerly, joyfully perfect and like, I got what I needed. Thank you. Bye. We're like grieving and wounded for decades. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah.
This is
awful. That was ridiculous. Thank you.
Wow. I don't think I knew that about that morning where you already felt like something had shifted.
So I woke up and my parents were coming and I had a wedding, and I woke up and I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I don't know so I know that there was a cellular change. I also know that I heard a voice in my head that I had never heard before. And at the time, and for the last 10 plus years, I've said that it's almost like whatever physical change happened in me made me hear myself better. But as I think about it too, I wonder if it wasn't her. And the fact that because one of the things that I've heard from other healers and readers is that her soul is like on top of my soul. And I think we've kind of done the work to shift to another chapter in her post passing. But at the time we were running as one person. If I was doing my makeup, she was doing her makeup. And to this day, if I see an animal, my sister was like Dr. Dolittle, animals loved her. If I see an animal, they love me. And I know it's not me, it's her. And I can see their sheer trust and joy because she is with me and they can feel her. But that morning when I woke up, I remember thinking to myself, like, what am I going to have for breakfast? Because I'm not a same thing every day kind of person. And this voice was like, an egg salad sandwich.
Me neither.
And I was like, an egg salad sandwich? Yeah, an egg salad sandwich. Like for breakfast? Yeah, for breakfast. Okay. Oh, we don't have any relish. That's okay. Let's walk down and get some. Walk down and get some? I'm sorry. We live in Los Angeles. No one walks anywhere. Let's walk down and get some. And I walked down to Ralph's. If you are familiar with LA, you know that that's a thing that no one does. I walked.
And I know that exact area as well.
It's not an enjoyable walk. It's not like tra-la-la. I'm like, please don't hit me with your car. So I walk down, have this great moment, buy the thing, come out, come home, make the egg salad sandwich, enjoy the egg salad sandwich, like go about my day, have this whole day. And then I am going to this wedding. I've gotten dressed. I'm going to this wedding. And I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't get them a gift. And I stop into the Ralph's. I go back to good old Ralph's, and I am running late. I know, right? I'm running late, Ralph's. And I'm kind of not sponsored by Ralph's, but also quite enjoyable. Thank you, Ralph's. So I go in and I'm running late and I'm feeling stressed and there's a line, and I hear and feel this calming presence say, don't worry, you're right on time. And I was like, okay. And so I go and get in my car, and again, I'm running late and I'm driving in. My mom calls. I send her to voicemail because I'm just about to park. She calls right back. I answer. That's when she tells me. And if I had not been running late, I know me, and I would not have checked my messages for at least an hour or two. And then I wouldn't have made my flight home, and I wouldn't have gotten to be with my family, and I would have been in a very different timeline. And so, it's just, I don't know. It's what's tricky for me as a spiritual reader is sometimes the insights come through so clearly through my channel that I can't tell if it's me or not me. And it doesn't really matter, to be honest. I don't care where it's coming from. I care, because I have certain things set up with my guides. I want people to go to them. I do not want them to come to me. I am very clear. I don't want to see you. I do not want to hear you. I never want to question which realm I'm in. I want to be fully in this realm, and you can send information in through my intuition. That's how I'm comfortable. And so I will remind them if they forget and someone reveals themselves to me, because a lot of time as a kid, I saw people and it was so scary to me because they present as in the body they left in. And so I'd see these old people in the hallway after they died or in the corner of a room. And that was terrifying. And I just don't like that. I don't want to question if you're here or not here. I don't want to be scared. I want to feel comfortable. And so I prefer blocks of information. I prefer the flow. So sometimes it's hard to tell what's mine and what's not mine.
You've mentioned all of your senses. So it sounds like all of your senses
Can I tell you my favorite? Yeah.
Isn't that something?
One of my favorites. So this is like, please. I'm going to just poise myself as an airhead right now also. So because I will smell things, like I will smell, I will hear, I will see, I will, and I just kindly request them to not a lot of times. But there was because I can smell things, like I remember I was dating this guy and he smoked a lot of pot and he was like, I'm not going to smoke anymore. I'm not going to smoke anymore. And this was like younger when I actually like made it my business. And, Spirit would tell me when he was smoking because they'd send me a whiff of smoke or, it's like, and I would so I've always had access, or I'll know that someone's here because I can smell my grandpa, or, it's a nice way of doing it. But there was a day where I wanted to make something. I was like making pudding or something at the house, and I was home alone, and I started boiling the milk. And then I got busy with other things because, my brain she likes to do things. So I'm tooling around the house, doing my thing, and I smell the sweetest, most delightful scent. And I was like, Spirit, thank you so much for that soul kiss today. And I go about my day as I burned the milk because it wasn't Spirit. It was the milk saying, please save me before I ruin all your pots. So it was hilarious where I was like, my experience of Spirit being so real to me is so real that sometimes I will mistake actual occurrences for Spirit because it's so common in my life.
That is so funny. I mean, really, I think living this way so loudly, intensely, really is so interesting. I mean, really, truly, because it is like having 2 feet in 2 completely different worlds and then having to walk forward in one direction, kind of like, what is it? The potato sack race kind of deal?
Yeah, totally.
It kind of feels like that. Like, what are we? I feel like the other person's like a spirit guide, and we're just kind of hobbling forward. Sometimes we go fast, sometimes we go slow, sometimes we fall down.
I find what helps the most for me is to surround myself with people who are aligned. Even if your clairs are not the same as mine, if you have them and you have some insight, then I'm speaking, it's when I have something really big happen, I will always call my spiritual people first. And it's not that I don't love my non-spiritual grounded people, but I need to be able to talk to you guys from the other side. I need to be able to literally, as I said last week, I just need to get weird right now. I need to be able to talk about the things that humans don't talk about really quickly. And it is like, it's almost like, Carrie and I call it the bubble. There's a place where when you and I are talking, we're here, but we're not here. We're somewhere else and we can access so much great insight. But it's, I remember, all my stories, but when I'll travel, sometimes I get a lot of insight because they're just so excited to have someone to talk to. And things will come through. And if I didn't have a partner, for example, who was spiritually, dialed in, it would be very hard. So there's certain things that it's like, I just know that surrounding myself with people who are spiritual in similar ways, because then I don't have to have a debate whether or not I've actually seen this woman who's standing in our bedroom or not, because they trust, I remember when I was with Nick, there was this woman who lived at our house, lived in spirit, who lived at our house, and she would watch us sleep. And she had this short blonde haircut, and she would stand, it was so scary. She would stand in the closet and slowly close the door. It was just like, it was so not okay. Thanks. I was like, whereas and he, he would just be like, oh, it's a dream. And then when I was dating F, I would say to him, someone is bouncing around our room right now. And not only did he talk to me about it, but then he went and asked the owner, did someone die here? And she said, yeah. So it was so interesting, to have a partner who's on your side versus you can, because what ended up happening is I didn't have to justify what I saw or felt. I could then move to doing my what I consider my work, my unpaid work, which is to help people find the light if that's what they need, to help give them love, to receive a message, to be there for what they need. Because if they're sticking around, either they're enjoying the experience or they have something that they have unresolved that they want to do. And if I can help with that, I'm happy to.
Yeah, it's literally just having a conversation, just like any other person.
Yeah,
it's amazing. And what I wanted to add to about having your people that you turn to, it's a matter of speaking the same language. It's a shorthand that exists, because you don't have to start from scratch where you explain things and you set the stage and then you have the building blocks. It's just, you're in the same reality.
And we're weird all the time. I will never forget all the
We're
time.
weird
I
all
remember
the
I was at a
time.
client and I was having this back and forth, this like situation with this copywriter. She had done this work and she wasn't going to finish it. She did this thing where she was like, I'll give it to you if you pay me. And I was like, no, that's not the agreement. You deliver and then I pay you. Like, how do I know you're not going to take my money and run? Like, that's not our agreement. It's not the contract. And she was being really very weird. Like, it was a very weird situation. I know I don't know what it had to do with, but it was weird. And so I had gotten this email about it and I was like, oh, so gross, so weird. And right then you called, and for perspective, we don't call each other. Like Syl and I are not we might be messaging on 4 different apps, but we are all like
Marco Polo,
all
Instagram,
the places.
TikTok,
Yeah. So
texting.
we might be having 4 different totally
Email.
segmented conversations on those apps. But like if one of us calls the other, we drop everything. If we're calling, it's a 911 emergency, no code required. And so she calls and I'm like, it's the who's dead, like moment. It's like, what's happening? And so I answer and you say, I don't know where this is coming from, but Spirit says, don't sit down. Like, sit down, sit down, sit down. You're rocking the boat. Don't sit down. Don't sit down. And that was like moments after I got that email. And I was like, and
and that was from
that's
Jenna
right.
too,
I
no
forgot.
less.
Thanks, sis. Sisses, plural. But it was, it was a nice, like I listened to you guys. I said, no, I'll pay you the minute you deliver. I require the deliverable. Like, and she did it and I paid her and then she blocked. It was like it's like humans get so interesting. She did block me. She blocked me everywhere. It was God bless her. I just sent her lots of love because thank you. Thank you for the veiling. It's actually, it's one of the things that I love about, I love the veiling that can occur in this world. Like, so her blocking me is a form of veiling. I don't have to be around her energy. She doesn't have to, because whatever happened for her around me is none of my business if she's not bringing it to me. I don't know what happened. And I also don't want to agitate her. It's not my job. Like, I don't need to make her like me. I don't need to fix it. Like, she had her experience and great. Now we are veiled from each other, which is a very conscious thing we can do on our socials and technology. But I think I've told you about this, but going to Shasta, Mount Shasta is one of my favorite spiritual places. It's a sacral chakra of the planet, and it's a very powerful place. Your GPS may or may not work. You will end up where you end up. Like, there's not a lot of control that happens there. And I remember I was nursing an injury, and we went to, I think it was Burney Falls, where there's like these 7 falls. And I was sitting in the water icing my shoulder. And then my friend that I was with, she said, I'm going to go walk. And I said, great, I'm just going to sit here and meditate. And so I got out of the water and sat there. But I'm not joking, 5 feet from the trail. There was not, and this is a paved trail. We're not off-roading. We're not in a unique place. I'm literally where she left me because I've got my little injury. So I start having this amazing meditation where I'm like literally connecting with these beings and we're transitioning to other places. And I was like having the time of my life. I was like, oh my God. And then at one point they said this thing that they say a lot to me, which is, oh, wow, they don't want me to say it. Okay. So they said the thing that tells me that it's time to leave. And so they basically said, it's time to leave. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay. And I opened my eyes and my friend goes, where have you been? She literally couldn't find me. She had been looking for me for almost an hour. And again, I'm right. I can see the trail from where I'm sitting, and they veiled me. They wanted me to be in this state with them. And so even though I was literally visions distance from the trail, she couldn't find me. So I love how special it is that so much is happening and that we don't need access to all of it. It's not our job to have access to all of it. We can have access to what's important to us and be redirected, and just the perfection of that.
There is so much I want to talk about. First off, the veiling that is available to usher energy that doesn't fit away from us. Have you had, because it's one thing to have somebody surface level be veiled and ushered away. Have you had something more personal happen in that way? I'm just going to take myself out.
I think that happens a lot. It's interesting because what I'm finding in my current journey is there's a lot of, so some of my personal soul journey on this planet has been about having boundaries and about excluding certain people's opinions, presence. I'm such a lover that I want to love everybody Yeah, right? Like you can be stabbing me and I'll be like, but I forgive you. Like, it's like, I love you.
I love you
like
so
it's
much.
really, it's just like, totally. I'm like,
soul
oh my gosh,
level.
like I will just go straight. I'll bypass myself. And so much of my healing journey has been to honor not needing to close the door, allowing it to just drift off, not needing to have a battle inside of myself, allowing it to just shift. But I mean, for sure, I feel like there's interesting, it's interesting when you're talking about soul level stuff. I have a soulmate who we're not meant to be soul partners in this life, but we're very deeply connected. And I had said to this person, I really need us to break up on the soul level, not on the human level. We already broke up, but on the soul level, I need us to break up. And then he veiled. And I was like, and I knew immediately, I was like, he doesn't want to break up. He was okay breaking up on the human level. He's not okay breaking up on the soul level. And so letting him go means I was like, well, I'll work on it myself, or I'll do it myself, or we'll do it later in this life, or we'll do it next time. I'm not going to chase him down and be like, you break up with me on a soul level. It's like it's, I don't know. So but it is really interesting that we are living in this time where we have our own journeys. We have other people's journeys. We can't manage these relationships ourselves. And so, yeah, I feel like veiling I think it's interesting too, even this ghosting concept that's out now where people are just dropping off. It's even that, I mean, as unhealthy as it is on the human level, there's something so empowering about saying, I collect my pieces. And I don't know that people who ghost are doing that, to be clear. I'm just going to not defend the ghosters of the world. But also, like, there is something about, like, I reclaim my pieces and I don't need to walk down that path. Like, I'm just going to move forward from where I'm at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel in some ways, and obviously it really all comes down to intention, but it can be a very kind thing, or it can be a very violent thing. It really just comes down to the energy behind it. And I was going to say I don't know, but yes, I do know. Most people aren't that intentional about it. Most people are only thinking about themselves and what they want.
It's often a form of manipulation. It's often there's like either a
very much.
Well, I say reclaiming our pieces, but there's also a sense of exerting one's power. Like when you are powerful, you don't need to disempower others. You don't need to hurt others. Your power is quiet and strong and solid. And when someone does something that actively hurts another person, it speaks to their insecurity, it speaks to their wounds way more than it speaks to their power, even if they feel more powerful from pulling away.
Right. It's almost a defense mechanism, which inherently puts them in a victim role.
And, I think it's really hard for people to trust the transitions. I think like the person that I just shared, I think it's probably really scary for him to think about not having connection to me because we didn't really split. He knows he still has access on the soul level. And even if I ignored him for the rest of our time together, there's something that's still, because I feel intuitively like it's something we need to do together. And, and actually what that does is it makes me have a high level of compassion for him. I'm like, he must be struggling so much to feel scared to release something he can't even see anymore. Like something from another plane, another time, another realm, and it's interesting. I will share one other veiling thing because I thought it was really interesting. There's a place called Chaco Canyon here in New Mexico. And it's one of the oldest civilizations. It's, you can go through there and they have these like wide roads and these huge buildings. And it's so fascinating. And we went and did a Docet tour. And I'm like the worst, by the way. You never want to go with me because I'm going to ask 1,000 questions. And even though the person doesn't ever, we just need private. We need like a 4-hour private. Totally.
We need a private
we need to
tour.
Get weird and
we
deep.
Really do. Yes.
Nerd alert. Yes.
Nerd alert.
Because I'll ask questions
Yeah.
and even if they can't answer it, spirit will answer it, or I will get the intuitive hit of what the answer is, or I'll know that what they said is wrong or what they said is right. And it's very helpful for me to kind of go. But when I was there, I was really excited because I thought, ooh, this is going to be so interesting, the historic value. Like I wasn't even thinking spirit. I just was like, pretty old buildings, yay. It's like nature, yay, exactly.
History.
And when I was there, we were walking through and I stepped off the trail. And I mean, by stepped, I mean 1 foot. And spirit was like, get back on the trail. And I was like, whoa, you are very aggressive. Like understood. Okay.
Got it.
And they did not want me there. because I'm asking these questions and these answering, and I'm getting a lot of insights. And I was like, this is fascinating. And it was so interesting. And we do this tour and we get done. And I say to my friend, I don't think I want to go to any more of these, because there's all these sites that are there that are in different phases of excavation. And because they've stopped excavating them now, thank goodness, because they are trying to basically preserve the Puebloan sites for the Pueblo people, which makes perfect sense. So we go back to our campsite, which is a little bit away, and all night they're waking me up saying, we don't want you here. You need to go. Like, it's time to go. And I said, well, can I come back? And they're like, there are so many beautiful places in the world. You could go to a different one every weekend and you would still not see everything. You don't need to come back. But they wouldn't. I'm not joking. When my friend woke up, I had packed our entire campsite up. I was like ready to go. She's like, tell them to calm down. And I said, it's their home. I don't get to boss them around. Like, no. And when we were leaving, because it's not my job to question them. They said, it's because you can see too much. There are things we don't want you to know. And I respect that deeply. I'm like, wow. Great. I want to be veiled, because just because I can, so I get really irritated when people use connection to spirit as a competitive thing or as an ego-based thing. I don't need to be the person who has the most clear message and delivers the thing. I need to do the job that I was invited to do. And many times that's to step away. And so I have my insights around what I think is happening there. I'm not going to share them because they prefer I don't. But it was really interesting to be like, wow, they really didn't want me there. And they really didn't need me to see any of that. And I could see too much. And that was the sense, was that I could see more than they were comfortable with. And I'll never go back there. I really respect what they have shared. And they've done, God bless them, they've done everything they can to make it inhospitable for people to get. The road is bumpy. It's hard to get to. But I just, I really respect spirit and what they request of us, either to leave them alone or to show up and do something.
What a mutual gift of communication that was, really, because they didn't have to be so kind.
Yeah, I wish I won't lie. I wish I had gotten it a little sooner. I wish I'd gotten it before it was like 8 hours of not sleeping.
That would have been nice.
But I think too, I also track, they're weary. It's a well-populated site. It is, their history has been intense. They're like, the fact that they've had to fight so hard just to get us to stop poking around in their land and history, like, it's, so I get it. And I completely,
how much more clear can they be?
And I even said to them, I was like, but I have, as we all do, I'm like, what about my indigenous history? And they're like, those are not our people. Like, they were so clear that the people that I come from, because I'm like old school Arizona, like, we just lose track. We have so many, people there, and they're like, those are not our people. So even though they were like, those are not our people. It's not the same. And so when people go around and they're like, I have Native American descent, you don't know where your people are from or how much is left in you or really what your connection is meant to be. And it's our job to respect people and where they are and souls and what they need. And this is, they're still rocking over there, and I want to support them and having the soul experience that they deserve.
Exactly. Wow. Something that all of that made me think of is how you were mentioning boundaries previously, and how integral boundaries are to both sides, human level and soul level. Boundaries are huge. Boundaries are everything, even with soul guides, spirit guides, everything that you've mentioned about the contract that you've already established with them. Yeah. Well, and
boundaries. I lost someone that I care about last week, and he came right to me, which I'm so grateful for. I'm so grateful for that I can experience that person and get if they want to share something. And he was here for 3 days, right? But I noticed that when I could feel him, because they're so happy and like excited and communicative, and that's beautiful, but it didn't allow me to really grieve. And I remember there was one morning where I just could feel that I needed to grieve. And I said, no one in the bathroom. Like, I was going to take a shower and I was like, no one in the bathroom, and closed the door, like literally I didn't actually close the door because I live alone, but I like energetically closed the door to give myself some privacy. And I finally really let myself cry. And it's totally okay to ask for privacy, to ask for space, to, the way that we invite people. Yeah. If I need to invite someone in, if I need to close someone out, like, you get to choose and work with it. But yeah, I think it's just healthy to have boundaries and find, and really honor other people's boundaries. Like, They want to be here. They don't want us included. It's like we have to watch. And I learned this when my sister passed. Watch that your own curiosity doesn't overtake someone's free will or their experience, because sometimes we get so curious or we have our own agenda and we pummel forward, and there's someone on the other side, whether that be in spirit or in human form, that also deserves to have their experience. Like, I'm not going to go and start sending people to the light like that. I don't know. Like, I don't know. It's like, right. Like, it's not my journey. Like, who am I to say that they're wrong? Like, that's not my place. Like, they have their own journey, and it's not my job to go and be the savior of the land and make sure everyone gets home okay. Like, they're out playing. They're doing what they need to do. It's none of my business.
So we've talked about how human side, we've both had to learn about boundaries, and soul level, we've also had to learn about what it means to be here, right? And have you found, or what have you found about that growth journey this time around? Because you came in super connected to the other side. Did you have boundaries with spirit back then? I mean, clearly you had that one Ouija board experience where you were already like, no, it goes like this. Has that been helpful in developing this side of the boundaries situation?
So I think for me, because I was like an open portal so early on, and I really mean that. I won't even get into all the ways, but so many ways that I just said yes to everything in spirit. And I think what ended up happening is not having communication about what it was like for me, not really sharing it, or not feeling like I had any education, because I don't know that we really, I don't know that we talk about it. We're talking about it now, which is great, but we didn't talk about it then. So there was a lot of collateral damage, to be honest. What was a big game changer for me was I started doing theta healing. And when I started doing theta healing, I met with this theta healer who was wonderfully thorough, and she had this very clear protocol. And I remember we got to the part of like entities, right? So fallen ones, waywards, zeta reticulant, like all the fun little critters that just might be hanging around. And that took us forever. It took so long, because what had been normalized for me is I was terrified all the time. And I didn't talk about it because I could feel things everywhere. And then I also had things that were attached to me, because I didn't have things in place to keep them off, or I didn't have practices for really cleaning my energy, even though I thought I did, but it was kind of like flossing your teeth with, I don't know, a swig of water, I guess. It was like, okay, there, I'm clean.
Well, it's like doing the at-home job versus going to the dentist every 6 months.
It was
it's
just
a totally
very
different
light.
thing.
And I also didn't really know what I was chasing, because it was normal to me. But I mean, I would go into, if I took a shower, it was the fastest shower you would ever see, because I was terrified to specifically be in water alone. I was terrified in a swimming pool, terrified in a shower. If I was washing my face and you walked up, I would scream. I would have night terrors. If I went into an attic by myself, I would do it as fast as I humanly could, because of the things I would feel and see and sense. And the fact that I was seeing things all the time. And it was just very, very stressful. And I didn't really have my skills dialed in. And so when I started doing this, she started like removing things and sending them to Crater and resolving these things. And some of them were hard. Like, there was one particular type that I would get rid of and they'd come right back, and I would miss them if they were gone. I could just grieve so deeply, because I felt my connection to them in that lifetime. And I was like, but I don't want, I won't say that, but it's like, it was so nice to finally be free of them. And what happened is it really allowed me then to be able to hear and see and experience what is actually happening now versus people who had been attached to me before. And, it's so tough, because I remember going to the spiritualist church in LA, and we would sit in circle twice a week. And, you'd get everything. Someone's channeling Abraham Lincoln. Someone else is like walking around. It's, I don't know. It's just, you get a lot of fun things. And I remember that they were going to do this entity removal on me. And this is before I found theta healing. And they were going to do this entity removal. And as it got closer, the spirits did not like this. And weird things would happen. Like I remember the one thing I remember really clearly, I was making a smoothie and I was cleaning the blender afterwards. And I watched them shove my hand at the blades. And I was like, what are you doing? And I knew it wasn't me because I'm sorry, no, thank you, please. But I literally watched it happen and I was like, no. So it took a while to find, to basically have myself relieved of these things that had attached themselves because I had been so open my whole life without knowing how to properly handle myself. Like, my Theta healer helped me learn to say no in my sleep. And I've had spirits wake me up because they're trying to get into me. And I now have a guard up around me where they can't get to me. And so for those of us who are open, it takes a while to kind of fine tune the machine and track how to do it because the world is so, it's like things we can't even conceive of, understand, in the slightest.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just one word. Yep. And you have people, quote unquote, normal people out here living their normal lives and dealing with all of this stuff and not having any language for it. And I really feel like the only language available, especially in the 80s and 90s, is fear. It's the only language that was available. It was only Goosebumps. It was only horror
Freddy Krueger,
stories. It was
Amityville Horror.
movies.
So if we are all spirit, if we are all, when I really get present, we are all this magical, amazing, miraculous vibration. I'll just call us that. We're just a vibration. We seem different. We're the same. We're all the vibration. And so even that soul that is haunting a house, quote unquote, haunting a house that feels scary is still that same vibration. So I guess I feel very grounded to that. And it's that's a whole other podcast to talk about what is evil and all of that stuff. But I feel way more aligned with the vibration of love that is essential to all we are and all that is. And it is mind-boggling to live on Earth with all of the contrast we have going on and all of the violence and chaos. But there is something so powerful about acknowledging that we are part of this bigger pool of light, of energy, of vibration, of frequency that is so much bigger and more real and more grounded than anything that we are experiencing day to day on the human plane.
Mm-hmm. And from that perspective, then, how do you, siphon yourself off in some way, to function as a human being? How do you show up professionally? Do you use all of this awareness in your professional life?
I do. I use it all the time. I picture meditation, my morning meditation, is part of my workday. It's not something that when someone is like, have you meditated today? I'm like, that's a work thing. I'm like, oh, just kidding. You're right. But it's because my work is so in alignment with my purpose. I am here to be a healer. And by healer, I mean, I'm helping you to remember your light. My job is to see your light and hold that until you also see it. And then you walk towards it. And then I'm like, bye. So it's sacred work that I'm doing. It looks like I'm organizing people's home, but I'm really helping them remember who they really are. And that's sacred. So for me, meditation and all of this is part of it. Channeling is part of it. Being dialed in. And yes, it's exciting because I will just keep doing whatever I'm asked to do. Last year, a year and a half ago, they said, it's time to write your book. And I said, okay. And I wrote it in 5 days. And it was exhausting. Do not mistake that to think that it was easy and fun. It was like a 5-day birth. I was like, I'm so tired. It's it sounds
literal
sexy, but
labor.
it felt like I was being birthed inside. I don't know. But so I will do what they ask. There's just times where they'll say, do this thing, this move. And I'll say, okay, I keep talking about, I have an online community. And there's been times in the last 4 years that it's been hard where there weren't maybe a lot of people joining or I didn't know what I was doing. And they will not let me stop it. It does not matter if I have a moment where I'm I'm tired of teaching. They're like, this is what you're doing. Continue on, child. So
what does that actually look like when they say, actually, this is what you're doing? Is it a voice? Is it a feeling? Do you try to deny it and then things go wrong?
All of the above.
That?
It's because I'm human and because I will get sticky in the same human places everyone else does, right? Love, money, body, the same places that they know they can just reel us into this timeline. They're like, we're going to give her some health stuff. It's going to help her be connected to earth plane. She needs some financial scarcity, guys. Send it on in so she gets reacquainted with her purpose. It's okay. So they will send me those things. And so I will sometimes get lost in the weeds the way that all of us get lost in the weeds from time to time of believing too much in the validity of that human thing. But what I notice is they're so kind. they just repeat themselves. They're not in a hurry. They know time's not real. They're just like, I remember I was writing my TEDx talk, and that's a huge deal. It's like a huge deal. You're like refining this giant idea to like a 10-minute talk. It's like next level. And my grandpa pops through and he says, "It's time to write your book." And I was like, what? Like, I'm sorry, I'm busy right now. Like, I just was like, I was like, what?
I'm a little busy.
They'll just kind of come, but it didn't stop him. He didn't say, "Oh, now you've ruined it, Star. Your book goes to someone else." Like, I wrote my book and I have like 5 more books, and they just kind of keep them teed up. They tell me what it is and they'll ping me when it's, so what I'll feel sometimes is I'll feel like an idea or an insight, or they'll give me information about it. When it's time to do something, I get a lot of downloads. I'll be trying to sleep, taking a shower, driving, walking, and I'll just start getting a ton of downloads and need to capture them. So that's part of it. Sometimes I will literally hear like how I heard my grandpa tell me what to do. Sometimes it will just be, I don't know. It's funny. It's just, there is resistance for sure. There's times because I have my own little version of what I think I should do and how it should go. And so they do a really good job making that really difficult when I go down that ego control way. They're like,
but I wanted to go this
that's
way.
A no. Sorry, that's a no, dog. That's no. Yeah. So it's very, it is really interesting. But I will say, I think the biggest thing is just their patience. They're not upset if I don't hear them, if I want to fight back. They're so loving, so kind. And even if I don't write the book they thought I was supposed to write, they're going to give me something else. They're going to give me a poem. They're going to give me a lover. They're going to give me a dog. They're going to give me something else to do. And it doesn't really matter. Like, we get so attached to the outcome, and Spirit's not. It's like, there's no difference between me petting a dog, me writing a book, and me taking, the great love of my life into my home. Like, those are all the same. It's all blissful in all different ways. And I don't know, when we can just be in acceptance and enjoyment of what really is and see it as a great adventure, I feel like that's when I'm the happiest, not when I'm attached to the outcome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. So how do you, I should say, reconcile that with how we make this world a better place? How do we impact things around us?
That's so difficult. And I feel like you and I could do a whole 5-hour conversation on just that, because it is so difficult. And I have to reconcile a lot of the feelings of grief that I have, and guilt and despair and shame and overwhelm and paralyzation. There's all of that goes on being here and witnessing the horrific things that are going on in our planet. And I just continue to turn them over to Spirit. So what I know to be true is the things I worry about are rarely the things that are mine to handle. Most things that I've worried about don't ever end up coming to fruition. And the crises that knocked me over are things I could not have planned for or been ready for. Even if I knew that they might be coming, I was not ready for them. And there was nothing I could have done to make me more ready for them. I just had to face them head on, be in the present moment, and go. So what I try to do, what helps me is I'll do a morning list, and I make a list of what's mine. Like, what am I dealing with today? What is on my plate for today? And then I'll make one for Creator and give Creator anything that I'm stressing out about, anything that feels overwhelming, anything that feels stressful or scary or too big for my brain. I just put it over there. And I trust that Creator will put the things in my path that I need to do. If I am worried about Gaza, if I'm terrified about this genocide, I trust that I will be shown who I need to support, where I need to send money, what I need to, like, whatever that looks like. If I'm, whatever I'm worried about, I just really trust that they'll show me what the right thing is to do. And we can't worry about everything all at once. We just have to do what's in front of us. And I really do trust that I'll be shown the path. And it's just to be open and to feel all of those big human feelings of pain and inadequacy and grief and despair and hopelessness and guilt and shame and all of that stuff. And I think the third part is remembering who we are, remembering that we are all made of that frequency of love, and that this human level, in my experience, and this is just my way of dealing with the world and how I see it, is that's our truth. Our truth is not the grief that I feel about a loss that I've had in my life, or the scarcity, or the this or that. My truth is that we are vibrationally love, and that is our dominant truth, and that anything we're experiencing here is something that our dominant truth, our soul self, has chosen to come through an experience. And so can I allow other people to have their experience, even if it looks horrific to me? Can I allow people, because they all deserve the dignity of their own experience. I did not need someone to come and save me when I was struggling with certain things. No one could have. It was my path to walk. And so how do I hold the light, see their strengths, see with love, and say, I see the God in you. I see the perfection in you. And I trust that you are the same, beautiful vibration that I am, and that you are getting what you need from this experience. And that is so hard when you see someone you love suffering, because we want to help them and fix them. And that's not our job. Who am I to say that their suffering is wrong? Maybe that's the lesson they came in for. Maybe that's what they came to experience. Maybe that's what their soul wanted. And I'm going to come and try to savior them. It's not my job. I will do what's in front of me. So trying to make peace with all three of those things at the same time is just, and volleying back and forth between all three, honoring the human feelings, honoring the soul experience, and literally doing what's in front of me in the moment.
Wow. Yeah. Gosh, that speaks to some TikTok, of course, that I saw the other day about the difference between helping and supporting. Helping, swooping in, saving, thinking that you know better, versus supporting requires more presence and more discernment and more listening.
And trust in the person. It's like when I call you and I'm losing my mind about something, when I'm stressing, right? What doesn't help is if you stress with me. If you're like, oh, that's so bad and I'm so sorry. In fact, I don't call the people who give me that response, because I can't take care of you when I'm not okay. So having someone just hold space and be with me, and just literally to have them like stand beside me while I experience this. It's like, I feel like it's like someone holding my hand when I'm getting a shot. It's not going to be a fun experience, but you're holding my hand and I'm not alone, and I feel slightly comforted by your presence. And that's enough. And yeah, it's just, what if we allow people their own experience? Like I remember with my sister when she was alive, thinking that, I don't know where this came from, but I was like, my version of happiness is not her version of happiness. And when I hold her accountable to my version of happiness, I make her miserable. I make her feel like she's doing something wrong, or that she's not measuring up. And she lived her life perfectly to what she came here to do. And who am I to say that it was wrong? Do I wish that 20,000 things were different? Yes, I do. Not my business. It's not my business to fix anything. My job is to hold the light, see the best in the people around me, find the love in myself, comfort myself when need be, and just do my best to stay, as you're talking about, staying connected to the soul level and the human level, like holding space for both. I don't know that my ratio will ever not be like 90-10. Like I like my ratio, but they will always make sure I'm dialing into the 10, So it's really holding space for both, because that's what we came here to do.
We could go on for 10 more hours, but I'm going to wrap this up. I have 3 questions for you. First off, can you tell our listeners about one book that you were you before and you were after, that changed your mind about something, that shifted you in some powerful way?
The one that I remember most at the moment is Marianne Williamson's A Return to Love, and specifically the chapter on relationships, and the fact that she talks about how, you can only evolve so much on your own, and then you need other people to help you continue the elevation. Because like I live alone. So wherever I left something is where I found it. No one's waking me up. No one's hiding my stuff. No, it's like my life is quite easy. No one, exactly. Actually, that's true. Yeah, they have been doing some magical things around here lately. But but like when I'm in relationship with other people, it makes me elevate. It makes me find deeper compassion, use better words, like it just operate at a different level, which is so powerful. So I love that. I also just love the idea that, in that, and I should actually go back and reread it, but it, talking about how like, we are literally like, it's not my job to like, we're not like partnering, like lock it down like Velcro. It's like, me in relationship with you is me loving you at your highest spiritual self. And my job is to support you in that. And your job is to support me in mine. And how beautiful it is that like when we can come together in relationship as our highest selves from this like really beautiful place of service within ourselves and for what we came to this planet to do. You know, everything is different. The relationships are holy in a way that they won't be if I'm just focused on attraction, finances, the life, you know, like what can I get from you? Totally.
Negotiation.
Like, some of my favorite relationships haven't lasted longer than a couple of years because they didn't need to. Like we came, we did the job together, and then we moved on with our lives. And it's beautiful, you know, and it's funny. Like I saw one of my godkids recently, and I was catching up with her auntie, and you know, my goddaughter looked at me and was like, "Why have you had so many boyfriends but never been married?" And I was like, "Well, thank you, my love." Yeah, so thank you. I appreciate that.
Kid.
But it's because like my experience of relationships does not necessarily, like for me, happily ever after does not need to end in death. Like happily ever after could be 2 years. It could be one day. It could be 4 years. It could be 20 years. I don't know. It's to me, I'm in this for so much more the soul connection of how do we help elevate each other and be our best selves and continue to evolve and grow. And it's so much more service-based in that way. And I don't necessarily require the mainstream society things because and yes, would I love a partner who comes in and stays for 60? Yeah, I think that would be really awesome. But I'm not going to stay for 60 with someone if our soul lesson is done. If we're complete, I'm going to walk. And so, and I know that that's not really not a popular stance in our world now, but but because I operate from intuition, it's the only thing that I operate from. So I shall do it whether I like it or not is the answer. Yeah.
Same here. I mean, obviously, we're just going to have more conversations on the pod, and you're going to have to come back. So we're just going to put that out there and have that be a given. What is the other question I wanted to ask you?
What is it?
Oh, yeah. I remember now. If you could bring to soul level, heart level presence a past version of you that needed you present tense, your light, your direction, what message would you send to past Star?
There was a moment when I was younger that I think I splintered from needing other people. I think I made a choice that that it was dangerous to need other people and to want other people. And I think I would go back to her and just make sure that she really knows. I don't know how to say this in words. It would be again a block of information, but it would be to really tell her that the being that we are within ourselves contains the essence of every being in the known universe, the expanding universe, and that our presence is enough. Like our presence is like we contain the magnitude. We contain everything within us, and to remind her that she's never really alone, and that even when she thinks she's choosing to be alone, she's always at one with the wholeness of the universe. And so I'd really want to like download that into her so that we don't have to go through lonely chapters or chapters of, you know, pushing people away or trying to pull people in that didn't have any business being in our lives, and be in a place of homeostasis, really operating from within.
And so in the level of paying it forward, then bringing to soul level, heart level awareness, the last day of Star, what would she turn around and give you?
Oh, she wouldn't.
Present day Star.
She's like, bye. Like she's like, you did a great job. You did all the things. Like when I feel her, she's just like way to go. I don't know. Like she's got places to go and things to do. She's just not looking back. She just is like, you know what? If I slow that down, so her energy is very excited to transition. It's very excited to move on. You had everything you needed every second along the way. There was nothing you needed more. You were exactly where you needed to be. You got everything you needed to have. You were where you needed to be. This was perfect. peace out. Like literally just like that level of like, we are never without, even when we are suffering and struggling and in the trenches, we are meant to be in the trenches. The trenches were meant for us. It's exactly right. It's perfect. Yeah. She's told me so she can go now. So on another level, she's already, bye, I love you, thanks.
Yep.
See you later,
Bye,
or not.
love you. So thank you for past, present, and future star coming to this podcast. I wanted to just acknowledge that soul level awareness always feels like truth. It feels clear and simple.
Yeah.
And it just
there's
hits.
and there's no need to convince. Right? Like, I know that there are people who will listen and be like, that's poppycock, like that's, and that's their experience. Like it's allowing people to live the beautiful, varied world that we live in with all of their own experience and all their own insight and all what's true for them. And to just be in what is true for us and for, caretakers like you and I who have made a lifetime of finding validation through caring for others. It's so powerful to care for ourselves by just being present to our truth and not needing to defend or fight or deflect or hide. And just, I'm so grateful to be here to talk to you today, sis. I'm so grateful for you as a soul, for your presence in my life. Like I really don't think I'd be here without you. I really don't know. There's been so many times you've picked me up off the ground, you and Adam. And like, it's so affirming to have a soulmate on this plane where I can be held in the truth and be seen by the truth. And because I feel like when I look at you, I'm looking at me, and I'm like, we are operating from this other level where we are in that beautiful isness. And I'm just so grateful for your presence and your light in my life. I know. Bye.
How do we always
we
end
love each
in
other?
tears?
And tears are like, when we cry, it's truth. It's so truth. Yeah.
That's real. It's so real.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't know. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know if they're excited. I don't know. I'm very excited. Like when I leave this plane, I mean, look, my humans, I kind of want, request to the universe. Take my human consciousness at the very end, just for a minute to the other side, blow her mind with what has really been happening. And then it's fine. Yes, because when we get to soul side, it's like normal for us. But I kind of want my human side to have her mind blown because I know there's a lot of stuff I can't see, and I want to see it.
Totally.
Yes,
Just
like
peek
a
behind
second.
the curtain real quick before we get
That's
in
all.
there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
A little taste.
Exactly.
An amuse-bouche.
Before the grand finale or the grand continuation. Yes.
Oh, I love that idea. Okay. Well, obviously our conversations will never, ever end, and you're going to come back to the podcast to share even more. But thank you for sharing your day with me. And
I love you.
I just love you so much. And of course, this is ending at 1:11.
I love that so much. Divine connection.
Of course it is. Ooh, we could literally hang out all day.
All day.
For everyone who wants to hang out with you and me always and forever, where can people find you? What are you up to?
Oh my gosh, I'm doing all the things. So you can find me at starhansen.com. And if people are interested in how they can kind of experience my unique modality of spirituality meets organizing, I am always excited to help people dive down that beautiful rabbit hole. I'm even happy to give your listeners a free copy of my book, which is called Why the F Am I Still Not Organized?
Amazing. Thank you so much. It's such a good book.
Thank you.
Oh my
gosh. You're in the credits. You'll see Syl's name in the credits. Your listeners can get that at starhansen.com/podcast. And you can download it, read about some of my weirdness. I mean, we're calling it weird and joking, but it's our magic. I try to infuse magic into like the stuff that seems benign, like organizing. I really love to infuse it with spirit. I love to infuse it with your purpose and help people kind of remember who they really are through the process. So to me, it's a remembrance. So yeah, I would love to offer that to your people and share the love of our weird, wild magic.
Thank you, sis. We'll put the link in the show notes, of course. And I just adore you, and everyone needs to be your best friend, at least.
I appreciate it. I know, I agree, but then where will we put you? Well, you're number
everywhere.
one. You're number one. Total, that's true. It's true. There's room. We're living on the leading edge. There's room for everyone. Come on over, everyone. It's time to party. Yes.
I love it.
Yay.
To my soul level human listeners, thank you for already following the intuition to tune in today. And I'm so excited for everything that's in store for all of us on this journey together. I hope this episode has sparked your curiosity, inspired you to dig deeper, and shown you that magic, awareness, and soul level tools are for everybody, not just psychics or mediums, but normal, everyday humans just like you. If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave us a comment or review, share with a friend, and subscribe for more soul level conversations. Until next time, remember that you are a courageous soul who came here on purpose, and it's time to step into the human you came to be. You don't have to do this alone. I'm Sylvia Beatriz, and this is Soul Level Human.